Have you ever wondered if I ever get caught up in obsessive thinking anymore, now that I'm free and clear of any emotional disorder? Well, I'll tell you that I do not get caught up in obsessive thinking anymore. But that is not the same as saying if I failed to be mindful that I would not obsess about things. The only reason I don't obsess is because I'm mindful. I'm sensitive and mindful of where my thoughts are at and what my feelings are doing. Whenever I perceive an injustice, even today, if I were not mindful, I would obsess. And there are times where I begin to obsess. Two things help me out of it. Two things. I'm going to tell you what these two things are, and I'm going to tell you right now that the second thing people rebel against. There are things that I don't know why, but a lot of people will rebel against the same things. So two things help me to stop myself from beginning to obsess. Number one, mindfulness. Recognizing that I'm beginning to obsess. The second thing is the knowledge that I have full control over my thoughts. This is the thing people rebel against. First of all, they rebel against it because they don't distinguish between their feelings and their thoughts. By the way, if you're one of these folks who that applies to, don't feel too bad about it, because I talk to quote-unquote professional, expert therapists and psychologists even today who can't distinguish between the two things. Don't understand the difference in nature between thoughts and feelings. It's true, we have no control over our feelings, but we have full control over our thoughts. And I repeated this a million times, but because I have to. People will say, no, I don't have full control over my thoughts because, you tell me not to think about an ice cream cone, I think about an ice cream cone. Fine. Are you telling me that you're stuck thinking about an ice cream cone until the ice cream cone decides you're allowed to stop thinking about it? It's absurd. Yes, the idea might pop into your head. It doesn't mean you have to continue thinking about the ice cream cone. You can recognize what you're thinking about. You can choose to think about something different. So if you have not been exercising that human power, that human capability to choose what you allow yourself to continue thinking about, you need to start immediately. You understand why mindfulness goes hand in hand with that, I hope. Because if you're not mindful of what you're thinking about, you're just a bus without a driver. You're just a bus without a driver. That thing's just careening off walls. That bus is going wherever your emotions tell it to go. In order to exercise this incredibly powerful capability that you have as a human being to control what you think about, you first have to be aware and conscious of what it is you're thinking. Catch yourself when you're thinking negative things. If you're walking around feeling a bunch of negative things, all right, we're talking about feelings there, but if you're walking around feeling a bunch of negative things, what does that surely imply? It surely implies that the reason you're feeling so negative is because you're thinking about negative things. Do you remember where our feelings come from? They come from our thoughts. So isn't that powerful that you have full control over what you allow yourself to continue thinking? Because you can catch yourself, consciously recognize, you can analyze your thoughts, and you can choose to start thinking more positively. And what happens when you start thinking more positively? A natural result of that is that you will most likely start to feel more positive. So this is not like lying to ourselves. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm not suggesting like, hey, if I tell myself I can fly like Superman, then I can. If I believe it enough, I can. That's not what we're talking about. What I'm talking about is, if I look outside and it's rainy and gray, my thoughts might default to, what a crappy day, what a lousy day. I had all these things I wanted to do outside today, and look at it, it's raining. And you catch yourself, boy, I'm being awful negative there. I'm being awful negative. Is there anything inherently bad or negative about rain or a rainy day? No. And you say to yourself, in fact, the rain is quite beautiful. The rain is quite beautiful. When I'm in the mountains on a backpacking trip, how exquisite it is to have a nice campfire going, sitting out, getting tired, drinking some booze, and then it's starting to rain. Pitter patter, pitter patter. But having that nice, warm, cozy, dry shelter set up right over there, and I know I can crawl up underneath my blankets, get into my tent, and then I'll hear the pitter patter of that rain on my tent all night long while I'm tucked away, nice and dry and cozy. How nice is that? So you can choose to look at that day however you want. You can choose to take it and make yourself sour and bitter and unhappy. And you can use those thoughts to lead into other negative thoughts. But we don't only have power over what we think, but we also have full control over how we think. So you can just as likely catch yourself thinking those negative things. Stop yourself and say, I'm going to choose to think about this rainy day this way. And that will have a dramatic effect on the thoughts and the feelings that spring out of those thoughts. Positive thoughts lead to other positive thoughts, lead to other positive thoughts, lead to other positive thoughts, and positive thoughts lead to positive feelings. But the opposite is also true. Negative thoughts will naturally lead into more negative thoughts, into more negative thoughts, into more negative thoughts. And negative thoughts give birth naturally to negative feelings.